Hey everyone, I am now live in Philadelphia at the NFL Media NFL Draft interview networking event. And welcome to Zenny 62. And let me take you on a little tour of what we've got here. First of all, flip this around. This is what we got. Okay.
How far does it drop? I don't think it's a question of drop. I think it's a question of flavor. He's Adrian Peterson, for lack of a better term, and you better get him the football. It's 1970s football. It's line up.
Of course, that's Mike Mayock. I'm going to go over and talk to my friend Charles Davis over here. See that?
Right? And it's one of the natural things that people in my position are lucky enough to have this. Every time I open my mouth, someone's telling me at home, you don't know what you're talking about. I know more than what you do. And that's cool, because how do you think I got into it? I was like, yeah, I know more than that guy. I can do that. It's a part of the deal where we all think we can do it. I can easily go over there Thursday night, and if I wanted to, leave with 20, 30 packets of mock drafts, breakdowns, and things that people have done on their own. That tells you the popularity. People care because they have some ownership of it. They feel like they know they can do the job the same way. And I hope my tone is right. I hope everybody understands. It's not a put down. It's actually a compliment. And I've told my fellow broadcasters, we have to be very careful nowadays, because up until recently, you know what we had as our trump card? We saw tape. We watched the all 22. You guys didn't. You had no access to that. We did. And that was always the trump. You come at me and tell me I'm this, that, and everything. Yeah, but guess what? I'll just watch 4 games of tape. Game, set, and match. Not now. Right? If I say that now, they go, yo, really? I watched 8. And here's what I saw. And whether you agree or don't agree, I can't just say that anymore. The football fan is never more knowledgeable about the game than they are right now, and will continue to be so in the future. Because we're not turning that back. We're not putting that back in the tube. They're just going to keep getting more knowledgeable. So if I just come out now and say, well, you know, they were playing 4-3 and running down the pipe and with a linebacker, my producer used to scream in my ear, explain that. Well, I still do, but more people already knew what I meant right out of the gate than ever before. So as a broadcaster and as an analyst, don't rely on our natural arrogance about what we do. That'll get you in trouble, because people understand way more, and that's cool, because that makes the conversation better.
And just a final one from me on kind of the other thing that you do in the broadcast booth. How do you see the Tony Romo transition going? Do you think he'll be good at it? And firstly, secondly, as a guy who's done that for a few years, is there any level of frustration that he comes straight from football and gets the number 1 spot?
I'll address the second one first. You got to understand where guys are coming from, okay? Tony Romo has been a starting quarterback in the NFL for double-digit years. Tony Romo worked his way into that position. He's been a starting quarterback for you know, probably the most recognizable team in the NFL if we go around the world. And he's put himself in that position. That's how it works. The better a player you were, the higher you're going to start in the broadcasting role. It's just the way it is. So for all of us, if you have a natural jealousy towards that, of course we do. I'd love to be Tony Romo. But I didn't play at Tony Romo's level, so no one's going to look at me that way. Okay, I didn't play in the NFL. I'm fortunate to be where I am. I've had to bust it to be in this spot. That's cool. I wish Tony nothing but the best. He's the only downside for Tony is the mistakes that he's going to make, that we all make, are going to be criticized and scrutinized far greater than when I was making them, doing a Division II basketball game of St. Leo versus Rollins.
Right.
What do you make of his son? That's it. That's what it is for him, and that's what he'll have to go through. And CBS will do their best to work with him, to help him, and he'll bust his butt to be great. And I just wish him nothing but the best. Are we all jealous? Sure, because we want to be that guy. But if I wasn't that good of a player, I'm not going to start that high.
Charles, what's going to happen with Gary in this draft?
I think that we're not going to have answers. And because we're not going to have answers, I doubt that he gets drafted.
Really, at all?
Lyle Collins. That's my blueprint. That's what I have to operate off of. We didn't have answers. He was never charged, if I remember correctly. But people thought there was a connection, and so every team let him bypass him for 7 rounds. And by the way, go back and check, he was a lock first round.
Right.
So if they're going to do that there, that's my blueprint. So unless everything comes out and we have a massive press conference before the commissioner goes to the podium on Thursday night that says this is all taken care of and this is done and not, I don't see that happening. There's just not enough information. So my blueprint is he didn't get drafted. I doubt that he does because these are gold to these teams. And you don't want to draft a kid that may never have a chance to play for you because you just don't know.
If you're a team that was looking at drafting him, let's say the Eagles at 14, do you just move on to the next corner, or do you totally reevaluate what you're doing in that spot?
It depends on your team, your philosophy and your room. Are you going for best player available? If you're saying it's still a corner that you absolutely have to have, do you touch him in terms of your ranking? Is he comparable to what you're talking about? If there's a major gap, then I think you're reaching. But if he's the same guy and you split it and you had a fist fight in the room and the guy with the biggest chair won because it won Conley, then you can go on to the next guy. But if not, then you've got to think about doing something else and moving to another direction. Otherwise, I think you're reaching.
Charles, what do you make of Hassan Reddick coming out of Temple University and now should find himself drafted tomorrow?
I've said this a few times. I'll say it again. I think the postseason matters if you're a kid coming out of college and people don't have all the answers about you. He played in a good football conference. It doesn't get the respect it probably deserves, but at the same time, it's not one of the big 5. So what was he doing there? Former walk-on, turned himself into a heck of a player. But then in the postseason, he played against all those Power 5 guys and made a position change and did it with aplomb and blew away the combine. So he's not just a workout warrior. He's a football player that works out really well. And the reports have all been positive coming back, and here you go. So to me, it's one of the fun stories of the draft. I'm still trying to come up. There's a kid from Florida State years ago who was a defensive end who started as a walk-on and ended up being like a top 5 NFL pick. Didn't have a great career due to a knee injury, but Hassan Reddick is that type of a player. And I love it. I love those kind of stories. I think we all do because any of us who grew up in this nation, you probably had to read the Walter Mitty short story, right?
Yeah, right.
There's Walter Mitty.
Yep.
We're all Walter Mitty, except he's actually living it. We're still dreaming it like Danny Kaye did in the movies.
Hey, Charles, curious. The argument is that air raid quarterbacks cannot succeed in the NFL. What's your view on that?
I think that we've seen that it's been very difficult, that we haven't had these guys have done it for the most part. We've had, Cliff Kingsbury had a small cup of coffee. But the thing I've told people is Cliff was a multi-year starter.
Hey, can I borrow that term?
Huh?
Can I borrow that term?
Take it.
Got it. Cool. I like that.
Cliff was a multi-year starter at Texas Tech. So he got a small, he got the decaf. Right. The rest of those guys that Mike Leach had, if you go back and look, he had a run of 4 or 5 years in a row where the starting quarterback at Texas Tech was a 5th-year senior, first-year starter. And you don't get that anymore. You think kids are going to sit around and wait for 5 years?
No, not at all.
They don't start game 1, they talk about transfer.
Hey, riddle me this thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to get. So for Mahomes, multi-year starter.
Right, okay.
You have to clean up footwork, you have to clean up reads, you have to clean up other things. But the arm talent and the kid is something that I'm bullish on.
Given that, I just want to follow up. Given that the air raid's basically the Sid Gilman offense of the 21st century, right? And its basis is the Sid Gilman offense. Is that to say that we've moved away from Sid Gilman's system doesn't work anymore? Because like Stabler, when he dropped back, it was by yards.
Right.
He didn't have the read; it was the look.
No, it's not so much that. It's that it's the Sid Gilman offense in advanced.
Ah, gotcha.
Because, and I hate to say that because Sid Gilman is.
Yeah. Right. That's
That
why I
brain
bring
is-
up the question,
brain's
though,
off
right?
the charts.
Yeah, right.
But it's advanced because Sid Gilman, that ball wasn't out of your hands as fast.
Right.
It wasn't just flick it to someone, he makes a move, and all of a sudden it's an 80-yard gain for your quarterback. It wasn't things like that. So that's where things have changed a little bit. Sid's guys, they still had to get back in the pocket and make that read.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not quite the same as that.
That's right. I'll follow up.
Certainly.
Just wanted to ask about Patrick Mahomes while you're talking about Cliff Kingsbury. Where do you think, obviously the arm strength is great, but where do you think he goes and where's a good fit for him, a good team that he can go to?
It's funny because when this whole process started, it's probably second, third round.
Right.
Now we're talking about maybe in the first. Arizona fits perfectly to me. Carson Palmer coming back, wasn't sure he was going to come back, decided to come back. What's Bruce Arians like to do in his offense? He wants that ball downfield. This kid fits, and he can go to a place where he doesn't have to start right away. You know, what's Bruce always say? No biscuit, no risk it. All right, no risk it, no biscuit.
Yeah.
We got it backwards. He wants a thing downfield.
You're scoring with the liners
right?
today,
He
man.
wants,
That's
he
pretty
wants
cool.
to hit it.
Yeah.
And Mahomes can do that. And imagine him a year of learning, footwork cleaned up, you know, all of that. Because I love Patrick Mahomes, but if I turn on a play with him and it's the exact same play call 10 times, it's going to look 10 different ways.
Right.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not always a great thing either. Because Patrick is like, he's a pitcher.
Yeah.
Arm angle's going to be different. Arm slot, it's going to come from here, it's going to come from here, it's going to come from here, it's going to be behind his back. And because of the footwork, I think he misses some throws that he's going to get cleaned up on. Plug in that Oklahoma game this year. Threw it 88 times.
Yeah.
734 yards.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Probably should have.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
Probably should have 900.
Yeah.
Right.
Missed a few, but I love the kid. I got a chance to visit with him, spent some time with him last year. Something about that kid I really like.
How do you rank the Bills' list of needs and where they need to put things at number 10?
You know, under a brand new head coach, you know, going back to the 4-3 and making the moves there. You know, Gilmore leaving. I think corner's still a spot that they should take a hard look at. Depends on how they evaluate the quarterback, what they're going to do. I think receiver is still a big spot because Sammy Watkins hadn't been able to stay healthy to be that number one guy. Robert Woods has moved on now. So I think they've got a number of places. I never get out of line on offensive line, but I think at 10, it's probably high for the top-rated offensive lineman in this year's draft. So,
What is your read on Tyrod and what they want to do with him, or what you think they should do with him long term?
doesn't surprise me that they kept him, and here's why. Sean McDermott's a defensive coordinator. In my experience in this league, college football, and whatever, defensive coordinators become head coaches, like quarterbacks, and they like offensive systems that drove them berserk. Nothing drives a defense coordinator crazier than planning for a quarterback that you don't know where he's going to be after on every snap. It just drives them berserk. And those broken plays, you know, like, hey, I schemed it up really well on defense. I took away that, I took away that, I took away this, and he goes. That doesn't surprise me why they re-signed him at all, because they like that. Does that mean they want to stand pat? I don't know about that, but that doesn't surprise me at all, because I mean, every guy I've talked to is a D coordinator. They hire offensive coordinators and quarterbacks that they had trouble game planning for. And here we are.
Charles, you talked about the Bills needing some defensive back help. If they don't take one in the first round, how long do you think they can wait, whether it's round 2 or round 3, and still get a day 1 starter?
You can go pretty deep in this draft and still get guys that you'll start day 1. I think that can happen. It's a little bit deeper than it has been. I used to run out around round 3 in recent years because college football, I get a great athlete, I put him on offense because I got to score points. The natural Darwinian evolution of that finally has occurred, and here it is, to where safeties and corners have gotten deeper out of necessity. And I think what's happened is a lot of those kids have gone to schools and said, my path to the field is quicker over there. And they're great athletes, and they go over there and do that. Kevin King, who's risen in the draft, he looks like a receiver in this year's draft. He's a corner. You know, that's what we're getting. Look at the safeties we're getting now. Rick Hooker, Jamal Adams. Those guys are offensive players. Kenny Easley is going into the Hall of Fame. If he had played college football in this era, he would have played offense. He wouldn't have been an All-American free safety. So that's where we're starting to get that movement back.
At wide receiver, the last couple of years we're seeing a trend in the draft where we're seeing immediate impact players in the NFL as opposed to developing year, second, third year. How many of those guys, wide receivers, do you see in this draft? And can you just specifically talk about the top, Williams, Davis, and Ross?
Well, there are more in this draft than we probably project because it happens every year. Marquise Colston is one of our great examples coming out of Hofstra. Tajay Sharp became the #1 receiver for Tennessee to start the year last year. And who projected that out of UMass? Probably no one. So we get that every year. But I'll talk specifically about the 3 guys. Corey Davis out of Western Michigan. Big, strong, physical guy. We know that. Makes plays downfield. Can go up and play it like a basketball. But also can make people miss downfield and run through tackles. I like that about him. Mike Williams, toughness can't be discussed. Broken bone in his neck, missed the season. The Alabama championship game this year, you might remember in the first quarter he caught a little in-breaking route. He got hit by about 8 people and left the game, and we thought he might not come back. Came back and essentially ran that young corner from Alabama into submission. If you think about that game, they were very smart in their game planning and what they were calling. The rest of the game, he ran that young corner to death. By the end of the game, what happened? They threw that ball in the area, he grabbed it. I got nothing left. First and goal in the 2 ball game. So he's that player. And again, another guy who uncovers late, makes a contested catch, not a blazer. John Ross, we know. But runs better routes he probably gets credit for. At one point at Washington, we were talking about making him a corner. Kick return ability. Medical is concerning some people because of some issues there. But he's a very muscular, well-built kid, even though he's not big in stature. So if you really are crazy about him, you compare him to Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
If you got questions about him, you compare him to Tavon Austin, who hasn't really found his way yet, or the Rams haven't figured out how to unleash him yet. Depends how you look at it.
O.J. Howard, for let's say a team like Buffalo that needs playmakers behind Sammy Watkins, like you said. Let's say they don't go wide receiver. If O.J. Howard's on the board, how does he fit in Buffalo?
He fits well because he's a guy who can play in line and block for you. Obviously can run routes and didn't do nearly as much of that at Alabama as he's going to do in the NFL. They had all those players out wide and they could get it to him and the whole deal. He actually kind of caught scraps. I mean, there's very few game plans I thought that were for him, but I think you can game plan for him. He's going to be he's a receiver of this millennium. Can stand up, split out, flex out, make plays. One of the signature plays in the Super Bowl of Seattle, New England was Gronk. Backside of the formation, split out wide. Seattle flips out KJ Wright, who's a Pro Bowl linebacker. But in open field, he's not a linebacker, he's a corner. Who won that battle?
How unpredictable is it? Do you see this year's top 10 and compared to the last couple drafts?
Yeah, I think so because we don't know how people are going to evaluate the quarterbacks and if there's going to be a run early. And if so, will people trade up to go get them? Or are they going to stand pat? Because we're all speculating, right? If I'm the Jets, I'm making so much noise about needing a quarterback because I want to see if someone wants to come up and be a trade partner with me.
Hey, so riddle me this.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Having said that, riddle me this. Why is Myles Garrett a lock at #1 in your view?
I think because the game is still protect ours, rush theirs. And he's, at full speed, at full strength. Played with a bad ankle last year, so if you buy into him, that's what you get. He played with a bad ankle and didn't have the same production. But if you watch tape, he's double, tripled on just about every play. And I played in an era where you ran 55 to 60 plays on defense because you huddled every play.
Right.
These cats are playing 85 to 90.
It's track meet. Yeah.
Pass rushing, bubble screens they're chasing, zone reads, options, sweeps. Every play is and you're hauling 300 pounds.
One of my viewers wants to know, he thinks that Deshaun Watson's getting overlooked. You agree?
Look, he's my #1 quarterback because body of work, ability to elevate game in big game situations, but poise, smarts, all that put together, grew his game as time went on. He has everything you're looking for. Not the most expressive kid, but I don't hold that against him. Mariota wasn't the most expressive kid either.
Yeah, true.
And
Great point.
And we're not designing kids to do that anymore in today's today's college football, because we're not huddling. So I don't have 10 sets of eyes looking at me.
Is that a bad thing?
Well, if you're going the old school way, it is, because you're not allowing that kid is not becoming your field general, as your executor. But as much as we say in the NFL, we need that guy, this guy, that.
Right.
We were 65% in gun last year.
That's a great point.
So
Great point. And
the game is merging more than it ever has, and for the first time, the college is actually moving things up to the NFL. Used to be that never happened. It's always moved down.
And also, this is, I think, my 12th straight year. You're probably longer at the
No,
draft.
about that same.
Okay, yeah. How has this changed over the time that we've been covering from your point of view?
Well, we know it's getting bigger and bigger, but the reason it's gotten bigger is just that the fascination and the ability to feel like you have a piece of it is there for our fans.
And we all have tables.
Fantasy football, I pick a team, right? Well, if I'm going to pick a team, I need to know who I'm picking.
Right.
Bill Parcells, right? You want me to shop for you want me to cook the meal? Then I need to shop for the groceries.
That's right.
So all of our friends who are playing fantasy football, well, they're evaluating the draft to know who they're going to get.
Fantasy football's really changed the game.
Changed the game, and the ability to watch tape.
Yeah.
They have access to all 22 tape, which fans never had before.
And another viewer says, what are your thoughts on the Raiders at 24 and the draft needs in general for the Raiders?
Well, I think the Raiders at 24, it'd be fun to watch, because defense is still a need for them to help out Khalil Mack, to help out Bruce Irvin.
I thought Reuben Foster.
That could be the one.
Yeah,
because if he's going to slide down, he's a perfect Raider.
Yeah, we're just going to with it, catch it. Yeah,
perfect Raider.
Get an audience with you, man, is like trying to get an audience with a Pope.
Oh, please.
It's like, golly,
you know better than that.
This is the best in the business. I don't care what anybody says.
Listen, an audience with the Pope actually means something. An audience with me.
I'll high five you on that one, man.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Got it. Cool. He's the best, Charles Davis. Go. Excuse me.
Guys, a couple questions. Good to see you. Appreciate it. We debated recovering
down to the bone to where, do I really want this kind of person in my organization? That's the tough questions for the organization.
And when you came through, and I saw you went all the way through the ranks as an assistant, all the way up to head coach in Baltimore. And I asked Coach Mariucci the same thing. What is the draft experience like from a coach's standpoint? Seeing that obviously the general manager organization is doing all the great, the scouts are handling a lot of this. As a coach, what is your input, and what are you thinking as you get ready for it?
I always viewed my job with Ozzie Newsome, who was outstanding at what he did, Phil Simon, Eric DeCosta, was as the head coach. I'm just prodding questions and answers. It's my job to explore with scouts, coaches, with the general manager and the head of personnel, constantly throwing, all looking for, what do you think of this guy? Tell me about that guy. I used to do something interesting. Just about this time, I would have my coaches do a separate board. What would your board look like? Offense, defense. Top 150 players. And then I would go down and sit with Ozzie and Eric DeCosta and Phil Savage and the scouts for each one. Okay, one side, my coaches say this guy's 14, your guys have him at 50. The outliers, what's the disconnect? I want to hear about this. Why the difference? And usually some very specific differences. Reasons for it, but I want to prop the conversation as opposed to thinking I'm the head coach, I know better, I think we should take this guy, that guy. I viewed it as my job to prod those conversations and listen to what was being said.
Coach, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great.
Hey, Coach Billick, your thoughts about why air raid quarterbacks don't succeed in the NFL?
Why what?
Air raid quarterbacks. For the most part, it is said that they don't succeed in the NFL.
Air raid.
Air raid is Patrick Mahomes played Texas Tech. Jared Goff played for the Tony Franklin system at Cal. And so
I don't know what you can attribute to a system. I think it's the style of college football, where 90% of the quarterbacks look to the sideline, get the play, hand off a draw, or throw a bubble screen. That's awful hard to evaluate. Compared to a Mitch Trubisky, but only have 1 year. There's not a lot of tape. That's the hard thing right now. There's no reason all these guys shouldn't be good quarterbacks in the NFL. There's absolutely no reason why Vince Young, Jamarcus Russell, Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Brandon Wheaton weren't going to be good quarterbacks in the National Football League. That's the hard thing right now. This is a hard group to evaluate because of the systems they come out of, or the fact that they only have 1 year.
Are there too many systems in football now? Be doing college and pro. When I say too many, you've got different variations of the spread, different, So.
No, it is what it is, and it's not.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm just
it's not
asking
college
just as
football's job to groom these guys to go in the NFL. Their job is to win and develop them within their system. If that translates to the NFL or not, that's not my job. Would like to help these athletes go forward, but I'm not going to keep my job by developing quarterbacks for the NFL if I'm a college coach.
That's great.
You look at guys like two of the best ever at developing offenses and quarterbacks in college game, Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier. Phenomenal. Not a lot of guys leaving their systems to go on to be successful in the NFL, but that's not their job. And so, yeah, systems are going to be what they're going to be, and players are going to develop or not develop. But yeah, college systems are what they are to be successful, not to develop quarterbacks for the NFL.
If Bill Walsh were to come back and coach today, the passing game, what do you think he'd say?
I think he'd take a deep breath and go, boy, how do I evaluate these guys? I'm not seeing enough of what I'm going to ask them to do on this college team.
Right.
And
That's
keep in
why I
mind
asked
now,
the
Bill
question.
Walsh never took a first-round pick.
Right.
Because Bill, even in that environment, recognized, boy, this is a 50-50 proposition. I could be right or I could be wrong, and was very conscious of that.
He also said once, because I had the pleasure of meeting him and interviewing him, this is back in '94, that there are people who are in love with formations but not footwork. Do you think that applies today, where you have a lot of people in love with the formation, but the fundamentals are gone?
Yeah, I mean, Bill at his heart, it was all about the artistry at the quarterback position and the individual techniques attended to that.
Yeah.
Bill was phobic about that. And the number one lament, I've done a couple college clinics recently, one at BYU and one up at Rutgers. And in visiting with college coaches, one of the frustrations of we don't have enough time with these guys to really develop them. And I think that's a fair observation. So, as that translates to the NFL, you're having to take a bunch of guys that you're betting on the come because you just don't see a lot of what you'd like to see more of to definitively step on that stage and say, this guy can be a player.
And that's even in an era with you have Elite 11 quarterback camps and all these different schools and still...
Absolutely. And that has evolved to the point where these guys, they have Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000
hours.
Right,
I was thinking of that, yeah.
The problem is it's not necessarily in an environment that is conducive to evaluating them for the NFL.
Now, having said all that, who do you like as your best quarterback?
I like them all. There's no reason any of them can't be successful. And history will tell us that half of them are going to be.
Are you running for office here?
No. It is what it is. Nobody. And I've been at this game, man, for 45 years.
Right.
I want to see the coach, and they have to do this. They have to stand up and say, I think player A is better than player B is better than player C. The fact of the matter is they don't really know, and they can't be sure until they get there.
It's bad. This is bad. Dennis Green, your thoughts on the late?
Oh, God love him.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. Better man than even coach, and he was an outstanding coach, a mentor. I will say, and since we're in the draft right now, the best evaluator of talent of any coach I've ever been. Thought he didn't make an incredible general manager.
I guess I go back to when Stanford beat Notre Dame in '91. No one gave him a chance.
That's right. Came into South Bend, was one of
and
my
I took
fondest
and I took
memories.
Stanford.
Good man.
And I went to Cal.
You needed to bet on it.
Speaking of which, where's Coach Shaw? I gotta bug him.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right, see ya.
Whether it happens this year or next year, the Giants are back. But draft him.
I go over and give Coach Shaw a hard time. So.
I'm around the front so you get the S.
Okay. Wait, hold on a second.
More S.
This is not shifting because Jason, are you jujuing my thing?
Yeah, I am. But but go right here. Go right here and get the
forceful guy. He believes that there's a certain way to do things, and he's going to give it
the block has to show.
He's going to demand that for other people around him. And as a rookie,
Tell him, Jason.
Who's that? Choose his words wisely.
That would be David Shaw, the best coach in the nation.
So he's going to give it his best no matter where he goes, no matter what he's doing.
Was he like that?
He's right, basically.
And what's that like going to a place like Stanford?
And Stanford's coach, because he's won every game this decade. Just want to let you know, for all you fans back at Cal.
Yeah,
because he's around people that will.
Ouch.
Cerebral. And then there's that other half of him that is carnal, that is brutal, that is physical. And he's the perfect combination of those two worlds. So I think he's going to be extremely successful with them. I think he's going to be very successful outside of them.
as an analyst this week, what's your guess for where he is now?
That's really tough. I would say he's a perfect fit at 2 with the 49ers. Going to that Seattle Seahawks type of defense where you're going to need jet penetrators up the field, which is what he does extremely well. But then also 3 in Chicago, where it's a defense that he does extremely well. He'll be able to play interior as pass rusher as well as play defensive end in it, and know the schemes and understand the calls. And I think those are probably the 2 best fits for him.
And size-wise, he's okay as a 3-4 end, do you think?
I think absolutely. At 200, once again, he's 21 years old. He's gained 10 pounds in the past year and a half. I think he's going to play at 285 at some point in his career in the next couple of years, 285, maybe 290. But his attributes are explosion and physical nature and being relentless, and I think that fits anywhere.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Hey, Coach Shaw, nice to see you. How's it going? It's pretty good. How's it going with you? Pretty good. I'll ask you a question that Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
A 20 carry, 30 carry back for a team can be done at the NFL, you thought?
Absolutely. Now, week after week, that's tough to say, I think, for anybody. I think that's a tough thing to do, but I think this guy can. I mean, he's 205 pounds, absolutely, but you don't get a clean shot of him. He doesn't take a lot of pounding. This guy makes people miss. He's elusive. He gets dragged down more than he gets hit. But I think if you augment that with the way he's going to touch the ball as a returner and as a pass catcher, so I think he's one of those guys that can do it. 20 carries in a week, absolutely. And the next week he may have 15 carries and 8 catches for 110 yards.
And I'm asked that question mindful of the fact that, against us in the big game, 90 yards, and he did it in a line buck. He's always mischaracterized. People don't seem to know how to place Mr. McCaffrey. Why is that? Is it, because they say he's not a power runner, and then I think of that, right?
Yeah, they say he's not a power runner, but he probably broke more tackles than anybody in college football in the last 2 years. He is strong. He is physical. And before the combine, a lot of guys had questions about him. And I said, wait till you see him. So a lot of those guys, I started hearing from coaches and scouts at the combine saying, his lowers are bigger than I thought they were going to be. He's built low to the ground. He's got big, thick calves and big, thick thighs. This kid's a strong, physical runner. And then he's so explosive and dynamic, he almost makes you take a double take because. So I think the biggest thing is it's hard to categorize because there's not a lot of guys like that.
That's right.
So for me, the biggest comparison is LaShawn McCoy. You look at LaShawn McCoy, who's 205 pounds. This guy's on the verge of having 10,000 yards rushing in his career, and he can carry the ball 25 times a game. They're the exact same size, the exact same speed, almost like 1/100th of a second in the 40. These guys are both dynamic players, so I think Christian is more of the rule breaker than the rule.
Hey, I'm curious, when you go into a season, do you have a series of goals and goals and objectives that you want to reach that you adjust for the season, depending on who your players are going to be, or
We are absolutely. We are a place we talk about the process.
Yeah.
So we have
because I watched your TED Talk twice.
Oh, appreciate it.
So you got it.
We have process goals about things. This is not just what we want to achieve down the road, which everybody wants to win the national championship and your conference championship. Yeah, those are all great. Everyone has this, but how are we going to get better today?
how are we going to develop the football team today? We need to get stronger. We need to get faster. We need to explore this type of a game more because we have these type of players. So I think it's an ever-evolving process by which we try to build the best team possible each year.
And what's interesting to me is that some of your plays, particularly with Kevin Hogan, it looks like when you installed the read option, there are plays that weren't really classic read option, but they're read option action. Was that a nod to what the defense was responding to, but you didn't want to maybe get your quarterback injured in a way? I'm just, I'm just curious.
I think
I've always been wanting to ask that question.
That's okay. I think one of the marks of being a really good coach is being an unbelievable thief. So, through the years...
Wait, you get that, Jason? He's writing it down right here.
Through the years, we've stolen plays from Chip Kelly, who has a completely different style than we do. We've stolen plays from a bunch of different teams throughout the NFL and through college. So I think when we see plays like that, where we've adopted from other plays because a guy like Kevin Hogan, who was a really good athlete, so we can use some of those plays. Some of the things that Clemson did with Deshaun Watson 2 years ago. We looked at a lot of those things. We added those things to our mix. So those are just plays that I think we look at somebody else and study and just take a little bit and add it to our game.
But it begs the question to one of my most favorite plays ever, and that was the fake fumble. Flea flicker.
Yes.
Was that stolen? Because I haven't seen that anywhere before.
Chris Peterson, Boise State. Like 8 or 9 years ago.
Wow.
We had it in our back pocket for all those years, and it only came up a couple different times and never completely fit. And then our bowl game preparation, we talked about as a staff and said this is the perfect team to run against, but we need the perfect situation also. And it came up with the perfect situation. We got the perfect defense, and the guys executed it flawlessly.
Did they execute it well in practice, or is it one of these situations where you thought, oh my God, I'm going to call this, but I don't know if this is going to work, right?
The hardest part about the play was selling the players on it, because when we first talked about the play in our offensive meeting, I finished and I was kind of excited about it, and we talked to them about it, and I got crickets, right? I got kind of the dog look where guys are kind of cocking their heads, and
that kind of Scooby-Doo thing, right?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about it again and talked them through it, and they said, well, okay, let's just try it and see what it looks like. And the first day we did it in practice, the guys were like, oh wow, that looks great. So it was almost like they wanted to keep repping. It's like, no, we repped it once. No, let's rep it again. Let's get even better at it. So Christian McCaffrey, who still wants an Oscar for his faking the fumble.
I made a video about that, and I go back and forth. It's one of my favorite plays in all of football. Outstanding.
He took it to the next level because I just wanted him to look down on the ground. He got down on all fours like he was trying to pick it up. Yeah. Kevin Hogan told him not to take two hands off the ball. He took two hands on the ball and actually put it on the ground to sell it even more. So they took it upon themselves to make it even better than we had hoped.
Now, you pay attention.
How many more questions from the Cal guy?
Yeah, I am a Cal guy.
Yeah, how many more questions from the Cal guy?
I don't really know. I just like, no, this man's a genius. This man's a football genius.
I know, and don't try and steal stuff for your own school.
Right, this is live stream, Now, curious though, your offense, a number of your offense have multiple receivers, and I say that because a lot of spread systems now don't have, let me be more exact in my description, multiple patterns. You have one, I think, where the tight end had 6 different ways the tight end could go depending on the coverage. And how do you make sure someone remembers that? I've always been curious how you coach that so that you get an accurate read. How does that,
Well, the biggest thing is having the right guys.
Yeah.
Having the right guys.
Those Stafford guys are smart.
Yeah. Never asking the guys to do something.
Well, hold on a second. You like that, Jason?
It's true.
Sorry.
So having guys, we've had a lot of guys in the past. Zach Ertz, Kobe Fleener, Dalton Schultz, our tight end now. He's very capable. So we have these things that we put them on. If they show they can do it, then we allow them to do it. So it puts the onus on them to prove to us that they're capable of doing it, and then we give them the opportunity to do it in games.
What players do we watch out for in Stafford this year coming up?
I think Dalton Schultz is a good one to look at. Bryce Love, Trenton Irwin is a receiver. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I think just to begin with, I think we've got a really good nucleus of young players that are coming along. That hopefully we have a good, diverse group that can make some plays.
Your thoughts on the new Cal coaching staff? Nothing yet?
I'm excited for them outside of one game a year.
I can't imagine which game that is.
I think Justin Wilcox.
Do you know which game that is, Jason? Any idea?
I think Justin Wilcox is a great football coach. I think he's been a great football coach, a great defensive mind, but then also a very bright guy, a good recruiter, and a good guy. I appreciate guys who are good guys in this business. He's one of the good guys, so I wish him success 364 days a year.
I got a question for you. We were on the same flight 3 years ago on the way to the draft, and I gave you a play. I asked the stewardess to give you that play.
That was you, wasn't it?
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so I'm not see. He's like, what?
Did you use it?
I put it in my pocket.
Thank you.
Thank you. See, he put it in his pocket. He didn't put it in the trash. He put it in his pocket.
He didn't say put it in a playbook.
Well, but you don't know that. I saw an element of it against UCLA. That, yeah, it was against UCLA. I follow what you guys do. Because, no, I, as a person who regards himself as a student of the game, I think you're an excellent professor. I have to say that, you know. So you guys are blessed, you know.
We are.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Of course you can. Do you mind if I be able to put it on live stream while you're asking?
It's kind of needs to not go on live stream.
It goes to, okay, all right.
Does that make sense? Thank
Folks,
you, Zenny.
I yield to the Stanford people. I can't believe I'm doing this. All right. All right. Hey, Coach.
Zenny, I'll talk to
You too, man. Let's see.
So he knows more about X's and O's of football, of actually being a good player as a digger coach. But I think first of all, y'all got a great head coach. I think he is really going to push them. You know, he's drawn out all that stuff that was in there before. He's about business. I love what Tyrod has done. I love the way he's advanced. I love the way he's coming out of Virginia Tech. He was a dual quarterback, really erratic. And now the last couple of years sitting behind Joe in Baltimore, he worked on his game. He worked on it tremendously. And then he comes in Buffalo, and he's out there dropping dimes, and he's doing a great job. I think the way he was treated was unfair, but that's part of the business. He handled it the right way. He's out there rehabbing his tail off, and you get what you pay for. And I thought what they paid for, they got in there, and I think they saw that, and so that's why they moved on from Coach Rex, and you know, and I think they got a better coach now. And I'm biased because I've coached, played against him, I went against his defense. I've seen how the way he's maneuvered and operate, and I think he's going to be a coach that really changes things around in Buffalo that you guys need.
For Tyrod, what's the next step for him to solidify himself there?
I think they got to put some people around him that make him comfortable. The draft is an opportunity, if you have the chance, to put guys around your quarterback to make him comfortable. And he wasn't very comfortable last year. There's some games that you guys lost. It wasn't on him. There was some coaching issues. There was some player issues. But it wasn't necessarily one player. You win as a team, you lose as a team.
Mike Williams, Corey Davis, what do you like? Is there a separation there between those guys?
Yes, there's a separation. There are two different types of players. Mike Williams is a tall guy who's a jump ball guy. Corey Davis can run around you, can run through you. And he also can be a speed guy at times. Mike Williams is not a speed guy when you compare him to a Corey Davis or a John Ross.
Is that the way you see Buffalo going, trying to get a playmaker there at times?
I mean, if you want to keep your job, you better get some playmakers, either offense or defense.
Steve.
Curtis Samuel.
You asked me again. Curtis Samuel, he's an interesting guy because, you know, they have him lined up as running back / wide receiver, punt return, kickoff return. I'll be interested to see where his fit is and how he actually gets an opportunity to display his talent. But I think he's a guy who is not really looked at as high on the board as other Ohio State players. I think some people have Jamal Adams as the best safety. Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker is that guy that I've watched. When I saw him, he had a play against Clemson where actually Conley was getting burnt. He was on the hash and took off and picked the ball in the end zone. I saw him and I was like, wow. He is a guy that has the range that Earl Thomas has, and I think Malik Hooker is the best safety. And then Lattimore is the lockdown corner. I think
It's shocking though, but I can't. You guys weren't in the championship game, but defensively, you guys have some unbelievable guys that it's pretty cool to watch, and I'm excited to see those guys play. The question going to be now is how does Ohio State fill those shoes with those boys? Because those guys, you can't just you can say you got some guys that can step up, but those guys are 5+ year starters in the league here immediately.
Former wideout yourself, what do you think about who's the top wideout in this class?
As far as what I think is the top wideout and who I think will be a top wideout, I think the top wideouts are the guys who they have Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross, Juju Smith-Schuster, they got Kevin Cup, they got KD Cannon. It's a number of wide receivers. The guys who I think will end up outlasting the guys you expect will be the guys that are taking the 3rd and 4th round. That's what I think. Because there's such a strong defensive class that is moving down the offensive guys way down the chart that unfortunately happened.
What's your personal take on Corey Davis?
I think he's a good player. It's hard to really nitpick his game.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Smith, my viewers want to know what you think about Marshawn Lynch fit with the Raiders, assuming they are able to sign him.
I don't know. I think there's a void, and I think he can fill that void.
And do you think that he could be the every down back, or?
I think they'll figure that out in training camp. We can sit here and say what we think, but I don't think it's fair to say he can or he can't until you start to see what he's doing on the football field.
Right. And another one of my viewers and me are big Cam Newton fans. What do the Panthers need to add on offense this year to complement what he does that they don't have already?
Keep him upright. I think it's
Can I high five you on that one?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it's very hard for any quarterback to complete a pass if he's on his butt. I think you gotta keep him comfortable. If you don't keep your quarterback comfortable, he's not stepping in the pocket, he's not stepping up, and he's not going to follow through with the throw.
Do you think that he was treated fairly regarding the whole?
I mean, we all, if you take a poll and you poll the right people, you get the answer you're looking for.
Well said. Well said. What is the future for Mr. Smith? Do you want to have your own media company? Because you can go in a lot of different directions.
I'm working for NFL Network, and then I'm enjoying being a dad.
Nice. My mother says specifically she says tell Steve Smith when I see him he's my favorite player.
Oh, tell her.
So I just want to
tell your mother she's unbelievable.
She said she couldn't understand. She said the Panthers got what?
Tell your mother she's unbelievable.
Oh, my mother is unbelievable.
And I'm her biggest fan.
You got it, man. Hey, great to meet you, man.
Appreciate it.
You got it. You got it. Cool. Let's go over and give Steve Mariucci a hard time. We gotta get over to him at some point.
It's become very special.
There's a lot of good defensive back quality this year, and a lot of them are going to be starting day one. Makes sense.
Steve Smith. Good.
Can we talk to you about Kaiser?
Sure. I'm sure everyone's going to talk to you about. All right, we're going to do this so it's fake live, right? All right, 3-2. It's always good to talk to another Steve, but jokes aside, DeShone Kaiser, I think most people can agree that of the 3 quarterbacks here, he's probably number 3 on most lists, but why? What is your argument to make him number 1?
I got to know him a little bit at the Combine. I did an interview with him and put him on the board and talked questions and got to know him somewhat. And he was very impressive to me. And for a guy that never had any West Coast offense terminology, it's a different language than what he had in Brian Kelly's offense. He was able to go back on the board and verbatim say what I said, and he has never had that before. Led me to believe he's a smart kid. He's got great recall, great retention, and obviously I think that he's got real good confidence. Coming off a 4-8 season, that doesn't happen very often. at Notre Dame, and so he's still a confident guy, and he's got the size, he's got the arm talent, he's got the leg, he's got the athleticism that you need. I think the sky's the limit for him. He will benefit by being on a team where he's watching the other guy do it for a while. I kind of hope that none of these quarterbacks have to start day one. That's tough. That's tough duty, especially for teams that are in need of a lot of other players, right? So I think Deshaun will get drafted to a team that will sit him on the bench, let him learn the system for a while, watch a veteran guy, have him compete for that 2 spot, and then when the time comes, I think he'll be fine. You know, to me, in my evaluation, he could make all the throws. He did everything that you need in a quarterback, but I want to see him do it more consistently and with more predictability. And that comes. That's something that is taught and coached and developed over time. And I think he's going to be a heck of a pro quarterback.
So an established quarterback, you want to see him know behind. So you would.
Well, if he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay?
Right. But my argument
or the
would be
Arizona Cardinals in the second round.
Sure.
All of a sudden, sit behind Big Ben or sit behind Carson Palmer and go, this is how we play the game, okay? And then in a year or two, then he can take it over. I think it would be ideal for him.
Right. What would your reaction be if you see the Browns take it?
So, Hugh Jackson's a friend of mine.
Sure.
Okay? They do everything in their power right now to grow that team, to add to that roster. And whoever they take, whether it's Mitchell Trubisky, he's a Cleveland guy. I mean, he was a Browns fan this big. And I know Deshaun Kaiser's an Ohio guy too. Excuse me. But that there's going to be some growing pains, more growing pains there than if you have to watch a good quarterback and sit and watch somebody else play at first. There's going to be a lot of pressure in more ways than one on the Cleveland Browns quarterback. There will be pressure to get it turned around and be the right choice after some flops in the first round. Right. I don't want to call them flops. It's just sometimes guys don't work out. So we'll see what happens. But the Browns need another quarterback. We all know that. It's just a matter of do they pick him at 12 or will move up a little bit. I don't think they're going to take him at 1, but they're going to take him.
Aside from Kaiser, someone like, are you familiar with Michael Roberts at all? Out of the tight end. They call him a tight end, but he's a wide receiver.
Yeah,
a guy, like a Kareem Hunt running back. You know anything about him?
I didn't study him.
Okay.
I'm on the draft of early guys.
Early guys. Okay.
Early day ones.
I think we're good then.
Okay.
Yeah, good deal. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, Steve, beyond the top 3 quarterbacks like you were talking about, is there, whether it's Mahomes or Peterman, is there somebody that sticks out to you that could be a value for a team like the Bills that are looking to add something?
Yeah, Davis Webb from Cal is a guy that I really like. Spent a day with him on a show that we call Game Changers. And of course I coached at Cal, so I took a special interest in watching him. He was the captain. He was voted captain of that team like immediately because he portrays himself as a leader, as a quarterback should. Coach on the field like crazy. His dad was a coach, but he would take his perimeter guys, the receivers, tight ends, and running backs, and have a meeting on Fridays during the season, and he would run the meeting, and he would pick out the plays that are going to be presented in the meeting, and the coaches let him do it because he was that smart and that sharp and that much of a leader. So he's a pocket guy. Is he a West Coast offense quarterback like Deshaun Watson and Trubisky? No. He's a pocket guy, but he's one of those guys that if he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, plays from the pocket like Big Ben, or goes to the Arizona Cardinals and plays from the pocket like Carson Palmer and can sit behind somebody for a year or two, I think he's going to have a terrific career. He's going to have a chance. Yeah, I like him a lot. I like Peterman a lot too. Yeah.
Talk top 10 for a team like Buffalo sitting there at 10, looking ahead at the top 9 picks. How unpredictable do you see this draft potentially being compared to the last couple of years?
The only thing, some years we have controversy or a coin flip at number 1, but those are typically because of quarterbacks. Is it Aaron Rodgers, Alex Smith? Is it Goff, Wentz? Is it Leaf, Manning? You know what I mean?
We don't have that.
Mariota.
Huh?
Winston and
Mariota. Thank you.
Got it.
Absolutely. And so we don't have that this year. The controversy at quarterback is who's going to be the first quarterback taken and win. It's not 1 and 2. Miles Garrett's going number 1, unless we all get shocked, okay? So now it's like, all right, who's going to maneuver to get the guy that they want, okay? Do the Browns take that 12th pick and move it up to get the guy they like, if they have a preference? If they like Trubisky, who's a Cleveland kid, do they move up and grab him? Or do they just say, hey, I like Watson too, and we'll take either guy and just sit at 12 and just take who's there? But they're going to take somebody sooner or later, and it's going to be sooner. That's what makes this draft intriguing and unpredictable. Throw out all the mock drafts because even San Francisco, who needs a quarterback, probably won't take one at 2, but they might move out of there, right? So it's going to be one of those crazy drafts, I got a feeling, with a lot of maneuvering to go get those quarterbacks they need.
Hey, Coach, coming back to the Davis Webb discussion, there are people who say the air raid quarterbacks, the air raid quarterbacks don't succeed in the NFL, but you spoke glowingly of Webb, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on that.
You know, I was pleasantly surprised. Rewind a couple years, you mentioned Marcus Mariota.
Right.
Because coming out of that Oregon offense, I thought, and getting to know him, I thought there was going to be a real learning curve. Here's a guy that never was under center, never in a huddle, never really had a call of play. Looked at the sidelines. Okay, run the play. I thought there would be a learning curve where that he would have to sit and watch and see how this happens. Well, first game, he starts and throws 4 touchdowns against Jameis Winston, and he hasn't looked back. I mean, he shocked me. So he led me to believe that, hey, these spread guys can make this transition if they're willing to work at it, if they have a good football IQ, if they're committed to their sport to make this transition.
How much of that, I got to ask, because I made 3 videos about that specific game. How much of it was the intelligence of that game plan to borrow from elements from Chip Kelly's offense and then install them? Some designs I had never seen before in the league at that point, because I tracked it.
See, I think some coaches in the National Football League are like set in their ways, like, this is my offense, you have to learn it.
Right.
I was kind of like that.
I thought you were better than that. Come on. Come on, Steve. Jeez.
But the Vikings did that for Sam Bradford last year. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They didn't put him under the center with Adrian Peterson in I formation. They said, okay, what does he do best? He's gonna be in shotgun, and we're gonna sling it. We're gonna run spread. And so that's what Tennessee did.
Or Doug Peterson with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, you got to do some things that you give the kid a chance to be successful, right? So I think what we're getting now, more so than ever.
Sure.
We're getting, here's pro football, and we're kind of stuck in our ways, sort of. This is the way we've done it. Mm-hmm. But we're getting, Mitchell Trubisky hasn't been under the center since the 6th grade. So, and it's not just the quarterbacks that have been the spread guy. It's the running back. It's the offensive lineman in a 2-point stance. It's the run-pass option. It's all the stuff that's coming up. So pro coaches would be remiss if they didn't incorporate some of that, because that's what these kids do well. That's what they know. And so they incorporate some of it now in their game.
Which begs this question that I posed of Redskins coach at the NFL annual meeting. I said, is it now that college football is more innovative than NFL? And he nodded yes. Yes. Thoughts?
What we're seeing is no huddle, 90 plays. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of points, a lot of yards. We're seeing poor defensive tackling. We're seeing the effect that it has in sub-packages in the National Football League. If you go back, do this. Go back to Joe Montana when he beat the Cincinnati Bengals, when you saw John Candy over there.
Yeah,
remember that?
right, yeah.
half of that drive from the 92 yards out was in base personnel.
Right. That's right. Yeah, in red formation. In red formation.
With receivers' hand on the ground.
Yeah,
I mean, it
right.
was like, okay, they did 3 receivers a few times. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. There's a fullback in the game. Half the teams don't have a fullback. The game has changed.
And 3 times that drive, we went double tight. Just, to buttress what you're saying.
So the point is that the game has changed, has evolved. We're more of a nickel kind of a passing game now than smash mouth, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, Woody Hayes stuff, all right? Why is that? Well, because the rules say we should. The rules allow linemen to grab, okay? The rules allow the wide receivers to run free, right? It's like a freeway out there. They can't be touched by anybody. It's amazing. I mean, when it allows quarterbacks to go back in the pocket and they're protected. You can't hit me in the head. You can't hit me in the knees. You can't hit me. Don't touch me. I got a red jersey on. And if I go out there, I can throw the ball away. I mean, when Jerry Rice was playing in his early years, he got pounded. He got beat up. When Brett Favre was playing, he got beat up in the pocket. It was harder. It was more dangerous to throw the ball over the middle, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now these guys are protected. So the rules say throw the ball.
Right.
Throw the ball.
Remember how the Steelers manhandled receivers in the 70s?
Oh my God!
Andy Russell.
Mel Blunt, and so it's Steve Young never threw a bubble screen in his life.
That's true.
Steve Young never was in shotgun in his life.
Right.
You know that?
Right. Yeah.
No, Joe Montana was. Steve was never in a shotgun. That's right. Brett Favre didn't go to shotgun until halfway through his career, which was like 43 years. Okay, so the game's changed because of the rules. Those guys didn't throw bubble screens and college screens. They were illegal. You couldn't walk down the field, but the rules say do it now. So when you watch these quarterbacks, when Patrick Mahomes throws for 734 yards against Oklahoma, he could have had 850 because he missed a couple of posts. Well, a lot of the throws are out there, and a lot of the yards are out there because you can now.
Now everything, you get a playbook. There's Coach Huey's. There's a guy named Coach Huey. It's actually a kind of a.
I thought you were talking about Hugh Jackson.
Oh well.
No,
Coach. I sent him an email the other day. That's another. I sent a play to him, but that's another story.
Okay.
But the whole point is there's something called Coach Huey's Forum.
I don't know what that is.
And I didn't expect you to because it's a more high school. But my point is that there are concepts that are borrowed from Walsh's offense that are sprinkled around. Now anybody can just sort of run off a playbook. My question is, how much of football today is just cookie cutter as opposed to somebody really paying attention to what Coach Walsh would talk about? Less formations, more footwork, or you for that matter. I go back all the time to our first interview. We're talking about footwork and fundamentals, wide vision, narrow field. You don't hear it. I don't forget.
Well,
right, see? Where is that today?
There are a lot of good coaches out there right now, but because the game has changed and morphed into this passing 7-on-7-ish kind of attack, and it's exciting, wide open football. Okay, so that's good for the fans. It's a lot of points. It's good. It's good. The other thing that's changed is when I say we, I'm talking about NFL and college and even high school. We have trimmed down, for good reason, the amount of practice time that we have. The amount of practice time we have in pads. So what suffers a little bit, there's a trade-off.
Is that the Corey Stringer effect?
Well, in some ways, it's a health-related thing. It's the concussion thing, and it's the player safety and health-related issues.
Sure.
The less hitting, the less injuries we're going to have. Okay, in some injuries. But there's some parts of our game that are compromised by it. We're not as good at tacklers anymore. We're not as good as run blockers anymore. We're not developing our offensive linemen in pass protection like we want to because of less practice time, less training camp time, less pad time, all of that. And now we're hopefully having less injuries, and that's more important. Okay, I'm on the player safety advisory panel for the National Football League,
right,
so that's more important. But the fundamentals of our game have suffered a little bit, but that's the trade-off, and we're willing to do that because of their safety.
Coach, we don't have a draft system in European sports. Can you explain the sort of atmosphere
the draft system
in Europe? Can you explain the atmosphere in a draft or on draft day and what goes on in there?
Yeah, and so many people are into this draft. Fans from every team, all 32 teams, have been following this draft for months. It's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. And many fans have guys targeted. We need this guy on our team, and we love that guy on our team, and he'll make a difference, and he'll be on my fantasy team. And so it consumes America in some weird way. All right. All the wait till you see these Philly fans. They're crazy. Okay, they're just unbelievable. They're Donovan McNabb, okay, great quarterback for the Phillies. Remember when he got booed right off the stage when he got chosen? Yeah. So they're going to boo whoever it is, but then they're going to love him, all right, the next day. And they're going to boo Roger Goodell because that's what they do. And so they booed Santa Claus. And so fans are passionate about it. They're having fun with it. But, boy, it's important. Who are we going to add to our football team? Because we're all tied for first right now, right? We're all 0-0, and there's optimism in 32 cities. So, even a fan base like Cleveland Browns, who have been suffering for a long time, man, they got 2 picks in the first 12 picks of this draft. They're going to get their team better on the first day.
So draft day is important for every team. Are there any teams in particular that have to get it right this year?
Well,
any teams on the cusp?
Yes, I just mentioned the Cleveland Browns. They have to get it right because they have drafted several times a quarterback, and it happened to be the second pick in the first round, whether it's Brady Quinn or Johnny Manziel or Brandon Whedon, and they didn't work out for all different reasons. Everybody's got their own story. It looks like this year they're going to have 2 picks in the first round, and the second pick will be a quarterback. Again, Myles Garrett seems like to be a slam dunk kind of a pick. They got to get it right. They got to get it right to turn the corner. They're in a tough division. The other teams in the division get it right most of the time. Cleveland's got to make a move. They got salary cap room, which means they got dollars to spend. They got draft choices all over the place. They have to improve their team this year.
So the Browns could go from worst to the middle of the pack?
From
the middle to the top then?
I thought you were going to say from worst to first. I was going to say slow your roll.
So middle to top, who can do that?
I think they can go from, if you want to call them worst, to a much improved team. Second year with Hugh Jackson, when you go second, third year, you tend to establish your philosophy and your foundation, and so then you just get the players that fit your scheme and the kind of guys that you want. So they have a chance this year to make an improvement on their football team. Just how far that goes, we'll have to wait and see. A lot of it is luck. You got to stay healthy. You got to have some other teams in your division get their quarterback with a sprained ankle or whatever that is. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
But are there any teams that are maybe 1 or 2 picks away from being a real contender?
Sure. You saw Dallas last year, who probably thought they would have beat the Green Bay Packers. Yeah. And they were this close. This close, a miracle kind of year. But they lost a bunch of players. We can't assume they're going to pick up where they left off at 13-3 and improve that team. That ain't going to happen. Yeah, Dak and Zeke are back, but they lost linemen. They lost most of their secondary. They've got to add back to that team to even get close to where they were last year. Plus, their schedule's a bugger. I mean, they got a tough schedule. So they're close. It's going to be interesting to see where they go. Who else? The Atlanta Falcons. They're right there. They get Trufant back, their best corner. He didn't play in the Super Bowl. The Texans are close, The quarterback situation is on everybody's mind right there. What do? Do they go with Tom Savage or they just take a young kid? So there's some intriguing stories on a lot of different teams. Packers are real close. Where do they go? Do they go find a runner? Or do they, it's all good stuff. Thanks.
A little trivia as you go. When you were at Cal in '96, my mother worked for United Airlines. She came that close to doing your travel for you. She was telling me that.
She came that close.
That close, yeah. It was like the travel thing with everything else. But who's your favorite quarterback?
Of all time that I coached?
Yeah.
See, you're going to get me in trouble because if I say
if I say Steve Young, then Brett Favre gets pissed off at me. And if I say Brett Favre, then Steve calls me. Goes, hey man. And then if either one, then Ty Dittmer calls me. Goes, hey Mooch, I thought we were closer than that. He was on 3 teams of mine. And then Garcia goes, hey, come on, I went to the Pro Bowl for three times. And so I'm staying away from that one.
He's a smart guy.
Hey, Pat Barnes at Cal was a heck of a player too.
He was,
Threw for 321
Why
a
didn't you
game.
take him in the draft? I thought you were going to take Pat
Should've.
Barnes. You took Druckenmiller.
Druckenmiller.
What was up with
beast.
that? No,
Did you watch him roll that tire and all that stuff? And
yeah,
workout?
but
He was,
no, Pat Barnes
quit
was.
blaming me for all
You're
those
talking to a
draft
golden
choices,
bear.
huh?
Come on.
Truck was. Pat broke his wrist in the Senior Bowl.
Oh, I didn't know that.
See? Do your research.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, and Jake Plummer too.
Wow,
We went and worked him
wow,
out.
wow.
We went and worked out Jake Plummer, and he was a good West Coast offense kind of guy. Jim Druckenmiller Jim Druckenmiller was one of the reasons that we didn't draft Tom Brady. You go, what? Listen to me.
I'm all ears.
Jim Druckenmiller was a big, strong drop-back passer from Virginia Tech. He threw for 500 yards against Nebraska. Okay.
Yep.
Tough guy. I love him. Good-looking dude. But I didn't work him out coming out for the draft. He was my first year. I didn't work him out. Marty Morty, we worked out Pat Barnes because I knew him from Cal. Worked him out anyway. Worked out Jake Plummer. Those were West Coast offense kids. We were kind of informed that Druck would be gone before we picked the 28th or whatever. So don't even worry about him. Well, when he fell to us, we took him.
Yeah.
But he was a drop-back quarterback. Steve Young was, 37, 38 at the time. Yeah. Well, what we learned after a year is, and Druck won a game for us when Steve got a concussion.
He did, right.
And Jeff Brom had a broken vertebrae in his back. He won a game against the Rams for us. But anyway, we learned that a drop-back quarterback was not our cup of tea. We wanted the athletic quarterback where we could run our stuff, the West Coast offense movement package. That was not Druck. So a few years later than that, when we were trying to replace, try to add a quarterback, Steve was gone, Jeff Garcia was our athletic guy. We were evaluating quarterbacks, and we put them into that two different pots. One was the athletic category, and one was the drop back. Well, Tom Brady was the drop back quarterback in that draft. He wasn't a West Coast guy. Right. So that's why Gio Carmazzi? Yeah, Gio Carmazzi was a Rhodes Scholar, 4'7", point guard in the basketball.
I remember KGO had a field day with his name. I remember that. That was hilarious.
I mean, so we thought we could mold a guy that's
and Larry
smart.
Beal kept saying it. He couldn't. Yeah. And I know Larry personally. He was like, Larry, will you please stop?
Stop, Larry. So anyway, he was the smart, athletic quarterback. That's why we thought we could get something out of the kid. We didn't draft drop-back quarterbacks, and I think the fact that Druck didn't work out for us was part of that reason. Hey, let's stick with what we do and not go to a drop-back scheme.
I know you're getting the hook here.
Yeah, I'm getting the hook.
So I can talk to you for hours. Hey, great to see you, my man.
Good seeing you, man.
Go Bears.
Hey,
you got it.
Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be everywhere. I got my live. This is my live stream. Say hi to my viewers.
Hi, viewers. Let's go. Huh?
Go Bears. One of the greatest coaches in Cal history, right here. This man. You got it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. So, folks, I'm going to eat. That's the live stream here at the. Actually, you know what? Wait a minute. Let's go over and talk to Maurice Jones-Drew real quick to see what's on his mind. If we can get a hold of him. So, yeah. Let's see. Sure.
A lot of running backs that weigh that. Chris Johnson weighed 180 pounds, right? So he has the speed and the ability to put the ball in his hands and make plays, and that's what it's all about. I mean, anytime you get a guy that can return punts, I love those guys.
What's the best comparison?
I don't even have to ask. I'll back him up on that. A lot of people say Reggie Bush. I don't say that because Reggie Bush was able to run in between the tackles in the league, or they didn't really ask him to do that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know a guy that size that does it. I just think that he's a special player, and he he was arguably the best player in college football 2 years in a row. So why wouldn't you want a guy that, again, like Fournette, comes with the expectation that's handled that expectation year in, year out?
Thank you so much, brother.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, Mo, got a second? One question?
No, we don't. We gotta go. He's on my car. He holds me up.
All right, cool. Hey, man.
It's all good.
You
We'll
got it,
do
man.
again.
Good to see you. You got it, man. Good to see you.
we'll do it.
Yeah,
Good to see
got
you.
it. My gosh.
Hello.
Robin and Tony, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great to see you.
Here in Philly.
How you doing? Good to see you. I gotta put you guys on. Hey, say
Welcome to my city, guys.
greatest broad. Yeah. Wait a minute.
Welcome to my house.
We're in the city. So you guys, you got together.
And
Get
as you can see, it is not always sunny in Philadelphia.
It is overcast. It overcast.
It's going to be nice, though. It's going to be nice for the draft.
Where do I get the best cheese steak?
Well, there's a lot. We're locals. Well, I'm a local. Robin's a local by injection. Can I say that? But everybody knows Pat's and Gina's, but I know some side spots. So if you want to know, I don't want to broadcast it live. I don't get a kickback or anything. There's 2 places I know that are not the traditional everybody goes to places. So if you want inside information, just hit me up on Twitter at Tony Bruno Show.
Yeah, got him. And follow him. Not just hit him up, but follow him. Follow both of them on Twitter.
Follow Miss Robin
Austin.
Miss Robin. Yeah.
And Tony Bruno Show.
That's right. So with that, folks, I'm going to actually close the live stream so I can talk to them. Thank you for tuning in. Great to see you guys, and I'm going to turn this
Welcome
off.
to Philadelphia.
Welcome to
baby.
Philly. Thank you. Got it.
And I'm not even going to boo you.
Thank you. And it's when I press finish, it doesn't finish. It's supposed to stop. It sticks. It sticks. It sticks in place.
You're doing Periscope
No,
or
this
Facebook
is YouTube.
Live?
This is YouTube.
YouTube
YouTube's
Live?
better. Yeah, YouTube is more portable. Yeah, YouTube is much better.
You
Yeah.
can go live on YouTube? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought we just
live
did
mobile.
Periscope
YouTube live
and
mobile.
Facebook
Yeah.
Live.
We do YouTube Live, we go Periscope Live, and Facebook Live.
None of the controls are working here. Let's see here. This is
I'm
interesting.
doing simultaneous.
I'm gonna
on
try
all
this.
three levels.
I think that, and then there it is. Yes, end.